Phones are open here. If you want to join us tonight, it's Ian
and Matt.
The number, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Phones are open. You can bring up anything that happens to be on your mind. We've got all kinds of stuff in the news to talk about. You wanted to talk about, Matt, and we'll get to this at some point, Peter Schiff and his son. First, we'll get into who Peter Schiff is and who his son is and what all that's all about, because there's apparently memes being passed around the internet about him, and
it's blowing up.
We'll talk about that. But also something that blew up recently, I guess, was Donald Trump's new website. I don't know if you heard about this, but I spotted the news late last night that apparently Donald Trump has announced a social media website of his own.
Yeah, it'll probably blow up, and then it'll probably blow up.
Well, it hadn't even officially opened yet, and already it got hacked, apparently. And we can talk about that coming up here. Of course, your calls and thoughts are welcome. The number is 603-283-6160. But this is something that, and I'm not I'm not a Trump fan or anything like that. I think he's the most entertaining president.
I miss the memes really bad.
I do miss the Trump mean tweets, as they call them. I did enjoy some of those.
It was the best.
So as far as his entertainment factor is concerned, he was the most entertaining president of my lifetime.
The United States is over because that was peak politics right there. Everything is just down the tubes.
Yeah, I wish it would have ended during Trump. I wish he would have been the last.
Should have been the last one
president, but
call it right there.
It didn't happen that way. But I don't care for his policies. I don't care for any president's policy.
Nope.
I'm not in favor of the Democrats. I don't want Republicans. I don't want anybody to tell me how to live my life, and I don't think you do either. So, but that said, he's an interesting character, and he does things that are worth talking about. And it was disappointing to see him getting banned off of the mainstream social media websites earlier this year, which of course happened right around the time of January 6th, the so-called insurrection, which was, to me, nothing more than an unauthorized tour of the Capitol building.
From what I understand, the FBI orchestrated that.
There's definitely video of the police apparently just letting people in. Yep. So that does make you go, when it comes to what that was really all about.
And that the one security guard running away from the crowds, he looked it looked like an act of a run. It wasn't like, this was not tactical sprinting. This was this was just like, look, I'm afraid and I'm running. They're going to get me.
So I had said at the time, like, Trump missed his opportunity. He should have known that the trend was toward deleting people from these big media, big tech websites.
Sure.
I mean, that writing was clearly on the wall. I imagine he felt invincible because he's the president. They would never delete the president. Well, they did. What he should have done, of course, and hindsight's always 20/20, obviously, but he should have created his own website at that time and started using whatever posting ability he had on these other sites to draw attention to his other site, to draw attention to his new site. So he's doing it now, but it's 10 months later, and he announced something called Trump Social. Oh, sorry, was it not Trump Social? Something else social. Truth Social. That's what it was called. Truth Social, and immediately it has faced attack. According to MSNBC, former President Donald Trump and his team declared Wednesday night that they would soon launch a media powerhouse that would help them triumph in their long-running war against big tech. But within hours, pranksters found what appeared to be an unreleased test version of the site and posted a picture of a defecating pig to the Donald J. Trump account. The site, called Truth Social, has since been pulled offline, evidence that Trump is likely to face a daunting challenge in building an internet business that can stand on its own. Banned by all major social networks after his supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, Trump has for months agitated to regain the online megaphone that once blasted his voice around the world. In a presentation released Wednesday by his new media company, Trump Media and Technology Group, his team hailed the new social network as the first tentpole for a new Trump-led media, news, and internet empire that would one day compete with CNN, Disney, and Facebook.
I wonder, what about poor Rumble? They just got all big and stuff, and everybody, all the Trumpsters went over to Rumble, right? Or was it Rumble?
Yeah, Rumble is a video sharing platform, correct?
Wasn't there some other social networking platform they went over to?
It started with a P. I know what you're talking about. There was something last year. It was like, oh, hey, come on over here. We support quote-unquote free speech.
Yeah, and everybody went over there.
Then they got banned from like Apple or something like that.
Yeah. What happens to those networks? Is he just going to leave them high and dry after they've...
He's not on those networks from what I can tell.
Oh, really?
I don't think Trump has been posting social media posts since January. I don't believe he popped up on any of these other services.
Yeah, I know. My life has been fairly empty. Do you remember last year the memes? How good! Oh my God, the memes were amazing. And my other question is the FBI directly hosting
this
the site, or are they just like modding it?
Well, it's definitely being hosted in a very piss poor manner. I mean,
it's the FBI,
right? Well, that leads credence to your suggestion that the FBI is actually behind it. But I don't know. I think you would think Trump would have done a better job. I mean, the guy's got some money purportedly. He's got to find somebody that knows what they're doing with this website. Otherwise, it's just going to keep getting targeted like this. This is going to be one of the most targeted sites,
absolutely,
for hack, defacing, takedowns, database extraction, whatever kind of attacks that these guys can do on this site, they're going to do it. According to the story here at MSN, the site's early hours revealed lax security, rehashed features, and a flurry of bizarre design decisions. An open sign-up page allowed anyone to use the site shortly after it was revealed, sparking the creation of the Donald J. Trump account. So on the test site, no one had made
the Donald Trump account.
No one had made the @Donald J. Trump or whatever. So somebody else did and posted a pig icon to it. The Washington Post reporter was able to register and post under the account name Mike Pence without any stops in place. New signups were blocked shortly thereafter. The Trump Media Technology Group spokesperson did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The site looks almost entirely like a Twitter clone. A user can post what are called truths. So on Twitter, it's a tweet. On our Mastodon server, they're called toots. And over on Trump's site, there are truths, which are like tweets, or retruths, which are retweets. There's also a news feed called the Truth Feed, a notification system so users can know who interacts with their truths. The social network's App Store profile states. I do wonder. I was literally just asking in my head. I was like, did Trump actually make a new social media system, or are they using Mastodon? They are using Mastodon.
Huh.
Yeah. So good for Trump on that case, because that's a good move. Mastodon is a nice quality piece of software. We use it over at social.freetalklive.com. So if you want to see what Mastodon is like, you can go to our social site. Gab, which a lot of users may have heard of, that was sort of like the alt-right alternative website, even though it purports not to be. It's attracted a ton of right-wingers. Gab switched. They weren't originally a Mastodon site, but they switched to Mastodon a couple years ago, and there was all this hubbub from the Mastodon creators because, well, the people who made Mastodon are based in like France and Germany.
Oh,
They're
I thought
leftists.
they were Russia.
There may be a Russian contributor to it. I don't know.
Aren't they anarchists?
If they're anarchists, they're quote unquote anarchists. Would be maybe ANCOMs or something like that. They were not happy with Gab taking their software, but it's open source, so too bad.
Isn't that the whole purpose?
Yeah, that's the whole point. And so I'm sure they're not going to be happy about Trump's thing going on. But we can talk more about this here. And what is Mastodon? It's an open source system, so anybody can use it. Anybody can modify it too. You can anything that's open source, you can download it. If you've got somebody that knows how to program, you can send that over to them, and they can do all kinds of custom tweaking.
Make a copy.
Make it look however they want to. So, yeah, indeed, they actually talked to the Mastodon founder, and we'll see what he had to say about this, because, again, he's no friend to people on the right. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And in addition, coming up, the backlog of ships off the California coast, it's now at a record level. So it hasn't gone down since they went 24/7.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com. Free Talk Live.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is, Sarah, that you believe that the moon does have oxygen, that it does have an atmosphere, that everything that we've ever been told about
Does it have water?
Of course. It has light.
Everything we've ever been told about the moon has been a lie, is what you're saying.
You know you can look at this thing, right? Like you can go out with a telescope and you can look at it, right?
So you have to be on the satellite. If you go up to the satellites and drink your urine and take rag baths and all that, and you can take pictures of the moon when you're up on the satellite, but you cannot say anything because they'll kill you.
Hold on a second. Hold on. So you're saying if you go up into a satellite, which people don't do because satellites are just basically electronic equipment that transmit things. But if you were to go up into a satellite, that you would then be able to take a picture of the things that are on the moon.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, welcome to the program. The phones are open here. If you want to join us, the number is 603-283-6160. We're talking about the new Trump website that apparently has already been targeted for hacking. The site's up right now. It's called truthsocial.com. And there's like one of those sort of, hey, you know, let me on the waiting list, sign up things. You don't get to actually join the site. But apparently there was somebody found a secret URL. And, you know, I don't know how they do these things, right? But they did.
People got a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah, and these guys are experts, a lot of these guys. They know these systems and how they work. So they found like a back-end sign-up. They went ahead and signed up. Somebody created the username Donald J. Trump and then proceeded to post some sort of offensive pig photo or something to the profile, which resulted in them blocking sign-ups and taking the site down. Now, apparently the site is back up. It was stated in the media yesterday, I think, that they're planning on launching this thing sometime next month. So, it's going to be interesting to watch this develop. The leftist media is upset about this, including one of the Mastodon founders. So, again, Mastodon is an open source social media site that is designed to be like Twitter. So if you've ever been on Twitter, you know that you can tag people with a little @ symbol. You type their username and then they're tagged in the post. Or you can do a hashtag, which, some sort of word that you want people to easily search or whatever. So it has those two main features, and otherwise it's got the retweet feature, which they call retweet over on Mastodon. And it's a fine piece of software. That's why we decided to go with it last year when we launched. Was it last year? I guess early this year, maybe? Yeah, I think it was early this year when we launched the Free Talk Live social site, which you can go to social.freetalklive.com and you can create your own account there. And by the way, Mastodon is a federated system. And what that means is it's kind of decentralized. It's still centralized in that there's a server somewhere in Iraq running our software that can be taken down or could go down, or we could shut it down, right? So if we shut the server down, your account's gone. Although you can download all your account information and then you could upload that somewhere else. So you can still have control over the things that you post, which is a nice thing. But it's decentralized in that anyone can run this software if they've got, if you know how to run a Linux server or whatever. I'm not the right person to do that. You probably aren't either, Matt.
Nope.
But we know people who are. And, as long as you got the chops, you can run one of these servers. So there are thousands of Mastodon servers on the internet as we speak.
It's probably not all that hard. I mean, if you YouTubed it, you could probably figure out how to do it.
Well, I mean, obviously you can take tutorials online as far as how to administer servers, but if you don't know what you're doing, somebody's going to show you, the ropes,
right.
By hacking your site.
Right.
But then again, if you're just some little site that no one knows about, you're not likely to be targeted, whereas Trump, on the other hand, is one of the most highly likely to be targeted. So check out social.freetalklive.com, and also I do want you to know about Bitcoin.com. So you've probably heard that Bitcoin hit a record all-time high yesterday of close to $67,000, and maybe you're finally ready to take some time and go and learn about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And I know you wanted to talk about crypto later, Matt. We'll get to that story about the shifts here in a little bit. But Bitcoin.com, you click Get Started at the top of the page. Then you are presented with lots of introductory information, including all of 3-minute long introductory video that will teach you the basics about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So it's a great place to get started. If you want, you can dig in further than just that one video. You can watch more than one. There are several options there for you. But get started, because cryptocurrency isn't going away. It's going to become...
Well, they're going to ban it, and then it'll just cease to exist, though.
Yeah, crypto don't like being banned.
It doesn't. Wait. Yeah, right. Okay, that's going to do absolutely nothing.
It could make life a little more difficult, but it's certainly not going to go away.
It'll just push things
underground.
More underground.
This technology is not going away. I mean, China has attempted to ban it, and again, it just means that it's going to be hard to openly say you accept crypto. You won't be able to easily hang out your shingle, so to speak.
I think what they're saying is anybody who's running a miner is acting as a broker.
Now you're talking about the United States and what their
the infrastructure bill.
the proposals in that. We did discuss that briefly last night, but check out Bitcoin.com and you can learn more about it there. Plus, if you want to get the latest news headlines, they've got those too over at news.bitcoin.com. So we're just kind of talking about the Trump social website. It's actually called Truth Social, and of course, as you might expect, the mainstream media is trying their best to skewer this site. Not only are they reporting on the defacing of the website, they're also reporting that its terms of service are contradictory to its supposed, purpose. The purpose of the site is truth, right? To allow people to express their truth. They're saying that the terms of service are not aligned with that. We can
what
look
do
at
they
that.
say?
Well, we can look at that here, but I want to see what the Mastodon founder has to say. We're sharing a story from MSN about the defacing of this website. Again, some hackers found a back-end way of getting into the site, even though it's not technically open. They found an opening, And they went in there, created a Donald J. Trump account, and posted a pig photo to the account. And then the site was shut down, and they did take it offline completely, apparently. But the founder of Mastodon, this open source software, Eugen Rochko, told the Post Thursday Trump's site may violate Mastodon's licensing rules, which require developers to share any modifications and link to the original source code.
Oh.
Rochko says he's contacted the company's legal counsel to make a determination. Mastodon would not be able to take the site down in case of a violation, he said, because users can host the software on their own servers. Quote, such independence is one of the selling points of the platform, he said, but continued saying it's not an independence from the law, so avenues to take action still exist through legal proceedings.
Sounds like the Mastodon guy built in something to take down people he doesn't like.
Yeah, and that's disappointing.
Yeah,
you know, it is an indicator that the people who are behind Mastodon aren't really in favor of free speech.
Right.
Now, I understand there are these things, and you know, if Chris was here, our Friday night co-host, I'm sure he'd be able to tell us a little bit more about this because he's like the free software guru. He's all into this stuff.
He's a genius when it comes to that.
Yeah, and a lot of these free software packages, they do have licensing terms, but on the other hand, Trump certainly didn't sign them, right? Like when you install a piece of software, there's those terms of service. Have you ever read them?
No.
No.
But I mean, by clicking yes, you have.
You do, in theory.
I mean, and if you want to, and I honestly think that this guy, even though he might be building in some scumbaggery into his terms of service, I think that those are the terms of service. If you agree to them, you agree to them. And a few years ago,
do you think that?
Absolutely, because they could say the same thing about BIPCOT the BIPCOT license.
Well, we could talk about what that is, but the thing is, with these terms of service, a lot of them, including Trump's terms, because I actually was reading them last night. I pulled it up because I was thinking, okay, well, you know, what sort of nasty stuff is in this Trump user agreement? And so I wanted to go and look through it. And we'll talk about it coming up here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. The thing is, a lot of these terms of service, they're sort of unilateral. And what I mean by that is a lot of them say, point number one, we can change these terms of service at any time, and it's your responsibility to notice.
And they do, and you get a notice, and nobody goes to read that either.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't even have to give you notice. More coming up. Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The COVID pandemic will continue for a year longer than it needs to, according to the World Health Organization. The United Nations Health Agency says poorer countries are not getting the vaccines they need. FSN's Caroline Malone reports.
Vaccine inequity is causing the global coronavirus pandemic to stretch on for an extra 12 months, according to the WHO. They say the health crisis could easily drag on into 2022. Developed nations such as the United States and in parts of Europe have a plentiful supply of vaccines, but so far less than 5% of Africa's population has been vaccinated. The COVAX initiative aims to provide access to COVID vaccines for people globally, supported by richer countries and businesses. But so far, they've only been able to distribute 371 million vaccine doses out of a goal of 2 billion by the end of the year.
This comes as the UK has exceeded 50,000 COVID-19 cases for the first time in 3 months. Boris Johnson is urging people to receive their booster vaccinations. The Prime Minister is coming under increasing pressure from the British Medical Association to implement a Plan B to prevent the National Health Service from being overwhelmed. Benji Heyer reports from London.
The time is now for the government to act, claims the BMA. Its doctors have asked ministers to reimpose rules such as mandatory face masks and working from home advice just months after the lockdown ended in the UK. That's because cases of coronavirus here are currently amongst the highest in Europe and are even higher than they were this time last year when parts of England were still under local lockdowns. Boris Johnson says despite this that the government is continuing with its plan and that things are much better than a year ago, thanks to the rollout of the vaccine.
And Russia has reported its worst ever figures for COVID-19 infections and deaths on Thursday. The country is preparing for a nationwide non-working week, which authorities hope will slow the spread of the virus. In other news, former U.S. President Donald Trump is launching a new social media network called Truth Social, which he says will stand up to the tyranny of big tech. It comes after he was barred from Twitter and Facebook earlier this year. Nick Harper has more from Washington.
The former president has been without a megaphone. Banned from Facebook and Twitter, he's not been able to communicate, like he did in the past, with supporters since he left office. Announcing the news, Trump said, "Your favourite American president has been silenced." He hopes this new platform will change that and could help him if he decides to run again for the White House in the 2024 election. Earlier this year, he launched a blog posting site that closed within a month. This new enterprise is open to a select few now and will be rolled out fully in the first quarter of next year.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, open phones. If you want to join us here, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about the recent, not really launch, but announcement, I guess, of the new Trump website, the Trump social media site, which is not called Trump Social, surprisingly. They called it Truth.
I am
Social.
actually really surprised they didn't call it Trump Social.
Yeah.
With the ego on that guy,
It must
like
have
they would have run to that.
Yeah, it must have taken a lot for him to resist the temptation.
I bet there were a lot of meetings about talking him out of that.
So they apparently got hacked. There's actually a story over at the Daily Dot about exactly, or in some level of detail about exactly how that happened. How did the hacker manage to get into the site and create an account called Donald J. Trump and then post a pig photograph to it, which resulted in a shutdown completely of this sort of secretive access to the site. But what we've actually been talking about here is the sort of the back end guts of this. What is it? It's a Mastodon server. And Mastodon is, and I don't think I fully explained this, Mastodon is decentralized and it is federated, which means that the thousands of Mastodon servers out there, and we run one of them, called social.freetalklive.com, are connected together unless they choose not to be. So what happened when Gab, this sort of right-wing, alt-right, alternative social media site that kind of made a splash a few years back, kind of like right around the beginning of Trump, I think is when Gab kind of was getting into the news. When they went to Mastodon, a bunch of Mastodon servers threw up their collective hands in disgust and disconnected. So they disfederated from the Gab server. And as Eagle Die Flesh Curse on our DLive chat says, when Gab switched to Mastodon, the developers had an SJW meltdown. Major instances and apps blocked Gab. And that's actually a good thing. That's one of the beauties of the Mastodon platform is, hey, if there's somebody out there running a Mastodon server and you think they're bad news, you don't want them to be connected to you, just disconnect from them. And then what that does is it makes it so your listeners, or rather your users on the server that you're running, they can't search for Donald Trump and find the Donald Trump account if you've disfederated your server from that other server. And so I think by default, as I understand it, Mastodon is all connected. So when you start a Mastodon server, you're connected to all the rest of them. But if they find out about you and they don't like you, they can say, hey, we don't want to talk to those people, and just disconnect.
Huh.
So that should be all that they should be able to do. But instead, the founder or one of the founders of Mastodon is now saying they might sue Donald Trump over this new website that he's launched, which is using the Mastodon software, claiming that it has violated the company's licensing rules. So, and are they going to be able to make any money off of this, or what is the potential punishment here? What would it cost Mastodon, which is, I can't imagine they're just raking in the dough over at Mastodon. It's just an open source project. I mean, I'm sure they get donations from some people, but they probably don't have like significant revenue. They don't have advertisers or anything like that. So can they even afford the attorneys to bring this case and go up against Donald Trump? It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out if they end up doing anything. But we ended up talking about just terms of service in general. And let me read to you. I don't like reading terms of service, but this is just one paragraph to give you an idea. 2 sentences, basically.
This is the Donald Trump Mastodon server.
Yeah, this is from the Donald Trump truthsocial.com terms of service. And this is what you will find in a lot if you actually were to read your cell phone agreement, or you fill in the blank, one of these major corporate terms of service. You'll find a lot of them say things like this. We will alert you about any changes by updating the last updated date of these terms of service, and you waive any right to receive specific notice of each such change. It is your responsibility to periodically review these terms of service to stay informed of updates. You will be subject to and will be deemed to have been made aware of and to have accepted the changes in any revised terms of service by your continued use of the site after the date such revised terms of service are posted. Did you follow that?
It's shady. They're basically saying they can alter or edit the terms of service anytime. It's your problem to go read it and find out that it happened.
That's correct, yeah.
And you can only find out that it happened because it'll be different from the last time you read it.
Correct. But they'll change the date so you can know that there's been changes.
Oh, that's pleasant.
And what changes there'll be, well, I don't know, because they're not going to highlight them or anything like that. So you know how long these things tend to be.
Update to the terms of service. We're also sharing this with the NSA now.
Yeah, well, of course, everything's going to be, NSA is going to ingest this whole thing. But the point being, this isn't uncommon. You can make fun of the Trump site for having this term, but I guarantee you will find very similar terms in a ton of corporate terms of service.
Sure.
Now, some of them will say, we'll give you notice. Like, we'll send you an email or something, and every now and then you'll see that. An email will come in saying, we've updated our terms of service. If you keep using our service, you agree to the continued terms. Which isn't the same thing as at least when you're presented with the terms of service and you have an OK button, somebody had to click that OK button before they could get into the thing. But after the fact, am I obligated to read every damn email coming into my inbox? I can tell you I don't.
You can't.
You can't. You might not even get it. It might even slip into your spam folder, even if you had the intention. All right, I'm going to read every single terms of service update as soon as they email me about it. Well, oops, they've been going into your spam folder. You didn't know about it, and although they've changed all the terms on you. So how is any of this legit? How are any even if you could argue that the first terms of service was okay, where you had to click OK, the rest of them, I don't agree. I don't think these are legitimate agreements.
It's legit because it's a term of service. If you don't like that they're moving the goalposts constantly without telling you, then you shouldn't do business with them in the first place at all.
I don't disagree that you in theory shouldn't do those things, but I'm telling you, you can't find terms of services that are like, okay, this is it. This is the way it's always going to be. They all have the ability to modify themselves, and it's unilateral. You don't get to negotiate them. You don't get to say, oh, no. You don't get to change my terms. I'm going to agree to this set of terms, and then if you want, we can renegotiate later. No, it's always, we can just update them whenever we want.
Paragraph 3 in Section 4 is a little wordy. Can we,
Well, in theory, you should be able to do that to a real contract, right? Because part of contract negotiation is negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't remember offhand. There's 4 or 5 elements to every contract. There's offer, there's
acceptance,
consideration, and there's acceptance, and there's a few different. There's a couple others we're not thinking of, but you don't get that with terms of service.
No.
It's here's what we offer to you, take it or leave it. And I'm not saying that's illegitimate as far as, hey, we got a thing, you want a thing, you got to agree to this in order to get our thing. But it's not a real contract. And it shouldn't have the enforceability of a real contract, is all I'm saying.
It's just a unilateral contract. It's one-sided.
And I don't believe that's a real contract.
You check a box and hit send.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that's a real contract. It's a terms of service, but it's not a contract. And it shouldn't be treated like a contract, which is what I mean is this Mastodon guy shouldn't be able to sue over Trump doing this.
Wonder if there's any lawyers in the audience listening who could tell us if a terms of service is actually a contract. It's got to be. I would think it is.
Well, in the case of Mastodon, he uses the term licensing agreement, which is a little bit of a different word than terms of service. And again, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, if some programmer clicks an OK button on the licensing agreement who Trump hired to do a thing, does that obligate the entire organization to the licensing agreement, or is it just this one programmer who, I mean, he read the thing, maybe, but does Trump know what's going on, or does the manager know? There's just so much that's disconnected from this whole process.
Yeah, kind of like the Constitution, like who signed it?
Exactly.
I don't.
Right. How did those people signing the Constitution hundreds of years ago
for me
obligate anyone who's alive today?
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff just doesn't make sense. I think that if you violate terms of service, the most that should be able to happen to you, and generally this is the most that ever happens, is they just disserve you. You're out. They delete your account. You're done. And that should be all that should come. If you violate the licensing terms of this agreement, I don't think they should be able to collect any kind of money or anything like that. What are they going to do? It's open source software. They can stamp. I think they can stamp their feet. But should they be able to get hundreds of thousands of dollars? You can weigh in here if you want. 603-283-6160. More about the Trump social media site getting hacked coming up.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. That is the point here of the program. We've been talking about the new Donald Trump website, which I'm actually really surprised. We suggested this earlier this year that they should use Mastodon, and they did. They're using the Mastodon system, which we've got installed over at social.freetalklive.com. But apparently they didn't do a very good job in setting up security on their site because it already got entered without permission. And somebody created a Donald J. Trump account on the site and uploaded a photo of an image of a pig to the profile. There wasn't like an actual hacking of the site's internals or anything from what I've heard.
With the amount of hatred Donald Trump has, the level of cybersecurity necessary to protect that site
going to
would
be top level,
incomprehensible.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this develop, and I'm actually really happy that it's Mastodon because, like I said, I don't care about Trump as far as his politics are concerned, but he's entertaining, and so I would hit the follow button on a Trump Mastodon account, and that in theory, unless they have done something to break the federation of this particular site, because as I was explaining before, Mastodon is federated, which means that by default, you're connected to all the thousands of other Mastodon sites unless they decide to opt out from being connected to you, and I'm sure some of them will.
Sure.
But I'm not going to opt out of that, so I want people to be able to follow whoever they want on Mastodon. So we'll see how that pans out. Again, the site's not officially open yet. They're taking, they want on the email list basically, so they're taking on a list of folks who want to learn more and get signed up over at their website, Trump. I keep saying Trump Social. It's truthsocial.com. But I want to continue here with the story. And again, if you want to join us, the number is 603-283-6160. This story from MSN.com. They are saying that the Trump social media site seems to be aimed to be the politically incorrect safe space he had promised. That Trump's son Donald Trump Jr. promoted the social network on Fox News Wednesday night, saying it's the platform for everyone to express their feelings, would be in beta testing for the next few weeks, and would launch fully in the first quarter of 2022. The social network's rollout bears little resemblance to the caustic, attack-filled attitude that defined Trump's years on social media. Truth Social's listing on Apple's App Store said the site will be a place for families with varied opinions to, quote, come together and have an amazing time and share their viewpoints of the world, unquote. The company boasted the site will showcase basic features that have been expected of social networks for nearly a decade, including the ability to create a profile, post news stories, photos, and videos. The site's terms of service, however, list some rules that would hamstring Trump himself. The site will ban, for instance, the excessive use of capital letters, a hallmark of Trump's online screeds. Though the site portrays itself as a refuge for free speech uncensored by big tech, Trump's site will ban any content that would, quote, disparage, tarnish, or otherwise harm, in our opinion, us and or the site, the terms state. Now, like I was saying, I was actually looking through the terms of service because I wanted to see if there would be like a bunch of hypocritical stuff in the terms of service last night when I first found out about it. And honestly, I didn't really feel like it was particularly unusual. I didn't feel like it was unusually restrictive or anything like that. Yes, they do have some things in here, but the point about the capital letters, it's in a larger paragraph, and the paragraph says, upload or transmit viruses, Trojan horses, or other material, including excessive use of capital letters and spamming. I think what they mean is somebody who's doing nothing but, posting huge, long posts of just capital letters, right? Like, I don't think they mean one sentence of capital letters. That's my interpretation of that.
I mean, it's still funny because so many of his followers do that.
Yeah.
They're always screaming.
I think it's one of those things that is not going to be enforced for the most part on somebody who uses it occasionally, but as the rest of the paragraph says, that interferes with any party's uninterrupted use and enjoyment of the site, or modifies, impairs, disrupts, alters, or interferes with the use, features, functions, operation, or maintenance of the site. So it's not what the mainstream media is trying to make it look like it is. The line about you can't disparage, tarnish, or otherwise harm us and or the site, I don't know how unusual that one is, because, again, I don't generally read terms of service.
No, that could be common. This whole thing could have been a copy and paste for all I know. I don't read those things.
That's one of the things I'm wondering as well, is how different is this from the Mastodon default terms of service? I don't know. Again, it's who reads these things. But going on here, they also show the site hopes to benefit from something on which Trump has long criticized big tech. Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which protects companies from legal liability for the content of their users' posts. And I don't think there needs to be the Communications Decency Act. I don't think it should exist, but I also don't think that people should be held liable for the content of their users' posts. So I don't think you should have to have a law that says that people aren't liable. It seems like it's obvious. Like, if somebody says a thing, that's their words. They should be the ones held responsible for that, not the person who gave them a place where they could write some stuff. Trump threatened to veto last year a massive and unrelated bill for military spending unless Congress repealed the long-standing law. The Section 230 says, Section 230, the company is, quote, not responsible for any third-party content posted on, available through, or installed from the site, including its content, accuracy, offensiveness, opinions, or reliability, the site's terms of service state. And then they go on to blather about Trump and Section 230. The number here, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160 is the number. I don't really think there's much else here worth covering from this particular story, but it is interesting that within hours of the announcement of this website, a supposed hacker was able to breach the site, and there's a little bit of detail about exactly how they did that. According to dailydot.com, the hacker they got the developer's name for the app, which is T Media Tech LLC, like Trump Media Tech LLC. And they were able to utilize a website search engine called Shodan, S-H-O-D-A-N, that locates servers that are exposed to the open internet to track down the company's digital footprint. The hacker was then able to locate numerous web domains as a result, including one that appeared to be running the mobile beta for Truth Social. So again, this isn't supposed to be open. It wasn't supposed to be accessible, but they found it.
He stumbled upon it looking for it.
News of the public website quickly spread across social media after making its way to Canadian hacker Aubrey Kirtaner-Cuttle, who was able to set up fake accounts for numerous high-profile individuals, such as QAnon guru Ron Watkins, whoever the hell that is. Given that the mobile beta wasn't yet intended for public use, handles like Real Donald J. Trump and Mike Pence were openly available. The Daily Dot was able to secure the account for Donald Trump, uploading the profile image and banner previously used by Trump on Twitter to showcase the lack of verification protocols. Well, no website has verification protocols. Right. I mean, that's something that Twitter added, I think, later on. Like, we'll give you a blue check mark if you jump through whatever hoops. I don't know what they require for that, but by default, you're not required to verify yourself when you create a Twitter account. So there's nothing different there. Truth Social noticed the activity and began not only restricting access to the users who'd signed up, but blocking others from registering their accounts as well. So, was it really a hack as much as it was them just finding the back door?
Yeah.
Basically.
It was open. They just walked in.
That's right. It was obscured, I guess. The back door was obscured, but it wasn't beyond the ability of these people to figure out where it was. So this will be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Matt, are you planning on signing up over on the Trump Media social site?
I don't see why I would. I mean, the memes won't be there. Those days are over, and that's the only reason.
You don't think?
No.
Isn't the right way better at memeing? I mean, presumably the right will be, mostly the people on this website.
I don't think the right is extremely good at memes either. I think most of the dope memes came from libertarians.
Yeah, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't run in the right-wing circles. Not necessarily
just libertarians, but libertarians and the apolitical in general.
I don't run in the right-winger circles or whatever, but I just know the meme is that the left can't meme. And so I just presumes that means that they're suggesting the right can.
The left cannot meme. Yeah. The left is horrible at memeing. That doesn't mean that the right is great at memeing.
Wasn't there a meme you wanted to talk about tonight?
Well, yeah, the Peter Schiff. I don't know if you've seen it. The Peter Schiff,
the gold guy.
Son,
Peter Schiff, the gold guy.
Yeah, Peter Schiff is the son of the late great Irwin Schiff.
Who rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Irwin Schiff.
Yeah, the great Irwin Schiff, who went to prison in his 80s for advocating tax freedom.
Yep. Yeah.
And he died there.
Yep. And he was a talent. Oh, maybe we should wait.
We're going to continue.
Yeah.
The number here is 603-283-6160. You can join us, and we'll talk about Peter Schiff. Why is he being memed? What's going on with that? Of course, your calls and thoughts are welcome. And we'll get into, a more serious issue, which is the backlog of ships. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. It was 60 cargo ships at the time off the coast of California. It's a lot more now. More coming up.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. The COVID pandemic will continue for a year longer than it needs to, according to the World Health Organization. The United Nations Health Agency says poorer countries are not getting the vaccines they need. FSN's Caroline Malone reports.
Vaccine inequity is causing the global coronavirus pandemic to stretch on for an extra 12 months, according to the WHO. They say the health crisis could easily drag on into 2022. Developed nations such as the United States and in parts of Europe have a plentiful supply of vaccines. But so far, less than 5% of Africa's population has been vaccinated. The COVAX initiative aims to provide access to COVID vaccines for people globally, supported by richer countries and businesses. But so far, they've only been able to distribute 371 million vaccine doses out of a goal of 2 billion by the end of the year.
This comes as the UK has exceeded 50,000 COVID-19 cases for the first time in 3 months. Boris Johnson is urging people to receive their booster vaccinations. The Prime Minister is coming under increasing pressure from the British Medical Association to implement a Plan B to prevent the National Health Service from being overwhelmed. Benji Heyer reports from London.
The time is now for the government to act, claims the BMA. Its doctors have asked ministers to reimpose rules such as mandatory face masks and working from home advice just months after the lockdown ended in the UK. That's because cases of coronavirus here are currently amongst the highest in Europe and are even higher than they were this time last year when parts of England were still under local lockdowns. Boris Johnson says despite this that the government is continuing with its plan and that things are much better than a year ago, thanks to the rollout of the vaccine.
And Russia has reported its worst ever figures for COVID-19 infections and deaths on Thursday. The country is preparing for a nationwide non-working week, which authorities hope will slow the spread of the virus. In other news, former U.S. President Donald Trump is launching a new social media network called Truth Social, which he says will stand up to the tyranny of big tech. It comes after he was barred from Twitter and Facebook earlier this year. Nick Harper has more from Washington.
The former president has been without a megaphone. Banned from Facebook and Twitter, he's not been able to communicate, like he did in the past, with supporters since he left office. Announcing the news, Trump said, "Your favourite American president has been silenced." He hopes this new platform will change that and could help him if he decides to run again for the White House in the 2024 election. Earlier this year, he launched a blog posting site that closed within a month. This new enterprise is open to a select few now and will be rolled out fully in the first quarter of next year.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. It's been exactly 10 years since the killing of Libyan leader Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. He was dragged through the streets of the city of Sirte, where he was found hiding after opposition forces finally overthrew his 42-year dictatorial rule. In the intervening decade, Libya has been in a fragile state. Analyst Bob McMahon is with the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations.
In the case of Libya, the country remains divided. The country is nominally at peace for almost sort of a year and a half since the ceasefire was put in place. There's supposed to be elections, national elections on December 24th at last report that are hoped will be a unifying exercise. But we're talking about 10 years of a great deal of fighting, a great deal of chaos, disarray, and also of sort of proliferation of weapons, huge amount of armaments taken out of Libya, and by many accounts have spread across the Sahel region. You have a lot of instability and a lot of violence in the Sahel region in the last 10 years. And then also Libya in kind of the lawless vacuum becoming this transit point for migrants trying to get to Europe.
He also questions the failure of the United Nations and the international community to do more to foster democratic institutions in Libya, and notes outside actors, including Russia, Turkey and others, are now jostling for advantage as the country prepares for those December elections. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the top news again. The WHO is warning that the COVID pandemic will continue for a year longer than it needs to due to low vaccination rates in poorer countries. This comes as the UK has exceeded 50,000 COVID cases for the first time in 3 months. And former U.S. President Donald Trump is launching a new social media network called Truth Social, and that's the latest feature story news. Rebecca Foster reporting.
The Princeton Medical Institute has found that the most common deathbed regret, more than losing contact with family or spending too much time at the office, is never having sprayed a fire extinguisher all over the place.
Similar themes emerged in our interviews with dying patients. Some wished that they'd taken more risks.
Others wished that they'd lived a life truer to their dreams. But almost every single person surveyed, regardless of their age or circumstance, said that their most significant regret was never having grabbed a fire extinguisher off a wall and blasted it around a room until it ran out of foam.
I've lived a good life. I was a nurse for 32 years. I have 3 beautiful children, but I've never smashed my elbow into a glass case, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and gone whoosh over everything.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Of course, you can bring up whatever is on your mind. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio with you tonight, it's Ian.
And Matt.
So we, in the first hour, we talked about the new Trump website, the Trump Social thing, which is called Truth Social. It doesn't really exist yet. They're testing it, and somebody found the back door wide open, went in and created...
they went through the fridge, tried on some clothes.
Yeah, created some fake profiles and upset the powers that be behind that site, but led to a discussion briefly about memes, and there's a meme that you wanted to talk about here tonight, Matt.
Well, yeah, there's just there's a rich dad, poor dad meme.
I've read the book. Have you read that book?
I haven't. I used to cook for a living, and I cooked for the author of
Robert
that book.
Kiyosaki.
Yeah. I actually cooked a meal for that.
It's a good book. Yeah. It's one of those basic kind of introduction to how to get ahead in the world kind of books.
Yeah, I know it was really well received. But there's a meme going around now with showing Peter Schiff's face, and it says, "Poor dad, rich son." Because apparently, Peter Schiff is famously anti-Bitcoin. He calls it a pyramid scheme. Even it's like, does Peter Schiff know what a pyramid scheme is? He ought to know what a pyramid scheme is.
He's been taking a dump on Bitcoin for years now, even as it rises and rises and rises. And he's just one of those people who just takes pleasure in every little drop, every little dip. This is proof that it's a bubble. And then keeps going up.
As he sits there and stays very mediocre in his other investments,
Look, gold, I love it. I mean, we're libertarians, right? Like, we love ourselves some precious metals.
Runs in our veins.
There's just no doubt about it.
Our DNA is written in gold ink, for sure.
But look, as beautiful as it is, as wonderful as it is, it can't hold a candle to the success of Bitcoin in the last decade. It doesn't.
Or the transferability. I mean, it's just so many things that crypto can do that Bitcoin, that gold can't do, precious metals simply can't do.
Yeah.
So, and nobody's saying put all your money in one spot.
No, that's a terrible idea.
Oh, wait, there are people saying put all your money in one spot. Peter Schiff saying put all your money in gold.
Does he say that? Well, that's because he sells gold, doesn't he?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So,
come on, man.
Peter Schiff saying put all your money. Well, now comes along Spencer Schiff.
His 18-year-old
son, Erwin Schiff's grandson, and he has gone all in. His entire portfolio is in cryptocurrency.
Bitcoin. I think he's a maximalist, isn't he?
I would imagine. It sounds it. I mean, I haven't asked him. I don't know him, but by the looks of things,
I mean, it seems like something that, for now, it's working, right? Like going all in on Bitcoin in the last decade has been a good move, but it's generally not a good plan to go all in on anything.
Maybe we should get a hold of the kid and invite him to a Bitcoin meetup up here.
He apparently lives in Connecticut.
It's not far. It's a drive. It's a
couple hours,
15 minutes. Yeah,
right.
You can get to the border down there. They live in New Haven, which is getting closer to southern Connecticut. But a couple hours.
It says here on his Twitter profile, Spencer Schiff. His profile name is Spencer K. Schiff. It says, former gold bug, now a Bitcoiner, interested in finance, Austrian economics, libertarianism.
Good for him.
Yeah, so what the hell's he doing in Connecticut?
I have no idea.
Maybe he just turned 18.
Well, there's people in the Free State Project been saying that's Peter Schiff forever, too. Get up here with your gold brain. Get up here and live here instead. What are you doing in Connecticut?
Yeah, but he's kind of a jerk.
He is, but you know what? He's still a libertarian, and he can be de-jerkified.
True.
When jerk libertarians move for the Free State Project, they they tend to get humbled hard and fast. I think so. Yeah, some of them don't listen because there's a lot of egotistical libertarians out there that. But you also get disassociated from. But you can have a good life, and we have great people here that are kind of in the same business as Peter Schiff. Like, I don't know if you know Bruce Fenton or not.
Yeah, of course I do.
Bruce moved with his whole family. They live up here in New Hampshire now.
He had us broadcast from his crypto seminar thing that he put on. He put on a crypto convention a few years in a row, and Free Talk Live was there for almost all of them.
Awesome people.
Except for 2020, which kind of didn't happen.
I think Bruce is the type of guy that could probably talk some sense into Peter Schiff.
I don't know, man.
Maybe a little.
I don't
give it a shot.
A lot of people have made Peter Schiff their little pet project over the last few years, trying their best to persuade this guy to show him the sense behind cryptocurrency. Because if you look at it and you don't have an insane bias for your product, because, I mean, this guy obviously is a pimp for gold.
Totally.
And it's pretty clear he's a shill. And he just doesn't want to see it.
Long run, it's good to have gold. So
no doubt.
If you have some gold because Peter Schiff said buy some gold, you probably didn't do you bad. I'm not going to tell. Of course, nothing here is financial advice and blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm all about diversification. My personal portfolio, I want to try to diversify. I don't want to have all of one thing, I want to have lots of stuff.
I was sitting at lunch today with Seth Hipple, who is the attorney in the case that I went to a court hearing. We didn't talk about that yet. Maybe we should talk about it later, about what that was about. But we're just at lunch, and I didn't even bring it up. Seth brings out 2 goldbacks from his wallet and just started talking about how great. I think somebody else was talking about gold, but Seth pulls out goldbacks from his wallet. I said, where'd you get those? And he said he got one of them at PorkFest and another one a client gave to him, apparently.
No kidding.
And he loves them.
And he's no dummy. Yeah. He's a libertarian.
Yeah, and he pointed out that that is something that's definitely true about these goldbacks. For listeners that don't know, we're talking about a product that is essentially a beautiful piece of artwork that has gold sort of, I don't know the best way to describe it, like sprayed in a very thin, technically adept manner that is very, very amazing. It's gold sandwiched between layers of polymer, essentially, and it's so super thin. You can get a 1/1000th of an ounce goldback, which is right now worth roughly $3 or $4.
They're brilliant.
And you can buy things with gold. So he was talking about how whenever you pull these things out somewhere, people just go ooh and ah, and they get very interested. And even if they're not into cryptocurrency, they're into gold.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And a lot more people are into gold. So, I mean, gold has thousands of years of history with mankind, valuing it, whether it be just simply for its beauty and jewelry or for industrial applications. Gold isn't going to stop being valuable. It's just that it's not as valuable as Bitcoin. Right. When I say that, I mean like we're comparing an arbitrary standard, right? Like 1 Bitcoin versus an ounce of gold. It used to be that an ounce of gold would buy you a bunch of Bitcoin.
A whole bunch.
Now you have to have, 1 Bitcoin will buy you a bunch of ounces of gold.
It's flipped for
sure.
So
things have changed quite a bit.
Well, people like Peter Schiff would tell you that all those Bitcoins that you bought with gold was a bad purchase because, Bitcoin's hollow and empty and there's nothing to it. And at the end of the day, you got nothing. I disagree. You have tradability. You can actually spend Bitcoin on things.
Yes.
If someone else is willing to accept it for payment, then you are in business.
Yeah, you can't easily send gold to anybody anywhere. I mean, it's a huge pain in the butt. You got to package it. You got to ship it. It's heavy. It costs a lot more. It costs more money to ship things now than it ever has.
Yeah. And it'll probably get lost because the government's in charge of shipping that stuff.
Yeah, or somebody takes it, or customs or whatever. So it's just not meant for anything besides a physical in-person purchase. You can still use gold for that, and that's what goldbacks are great for, and it makes gold useful again.
You know what I did this week, by the way?
What?
We went out to lunch at the local, the Seventh-day Adventist lady that has a little vegan shop. I got her.
The vegetarian buffet.
She now has an Edge wallet.
Hey, congratulations.
And I was kind of explaining it to her a little bit. I was like, here's why you should do it. And then I brought up Corner News and Roberta, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, yeah. Well, this doesn't look very difficult at all.
No, it's not that difficult. Yeah. They've made it easier. Cryptocurrency is easier than it's ever been. And it's not going to get harder. It's going to get easier to use. It's going to get more user-friendly. it's going to get to the point where your grandma will be able to handle using cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and if you're a crypto person, get out there and talk to your local business people. But just start a little conversation and with the person, talk to the manager, say, hey, have you guys ever thought about taking crypto? The best places to go are places that offer services above goods, I think. I think, except in the case of restaurants. As a retired chef, I'll tell you, man, that the number one business that should have been taking crypto a long time ago and could afford to, restaurants. Absolutely.
Sure. I want to continue this discussion. Your calls and thoughts are also welcome, because we didn't get to the meme, really. I mean, we kind of touched on it. But Peter Schiff versus his son, Spencer. Spencer, again, just 18 years old.
He's got a boatload of money now.
Spencer is all about Bitcoin, and his dad tried to talk him out of it, and now Spencer's like, nah. 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever's on your mind here on Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think.